Hey guys, okay, seriously, we need to stop making this Deebo Samuel situation so complicated. Right now, Adam Schefter just came on ESPN and he said that the 49ers are willing to pay Deebo Samuel, but for some reason, Deebo Samuel isn't interested in signing anything right now. And to that, I say, well, duh. Of course, the 49ers are willing to pay Deebo right now because they want him at a discount. And early in any negotiation, especially when other receivers are still on the board, you can get a cheaper price. It's about how much the 49ers are willing to pay Deebo Samuel right now. It's not about whether they're willing to pay him or not. Of course, the 49ers would be happy to have Deebo Samuel signed for $18 million per year and only $10 million guaranteed. That's a deal that any team would take. Any front office would gladly take because you're screwing over the player. So, of course, the 49ers would want that. But, of course, Deebo Samuel wants to wait because if the 49ers offer is too low, that means Deebo Samuel might be upset, which is why he scrubbed his social media. It's the simple explanation for all of this stuff. And we talk about Occam's razor a lot. The simplest explanation is usually the true one. And we can use history to find related cases and to track the 49ers' prior behavior, to apply it to the present, and take the lessons that we learned to understand what's going on right now. You know that we talk about George Kittle a lot. Well, remember that George Kittle's agent called the 49ers' first offer to his client in 2020 the Valentine's Day Massacre because it was so bad. He felt ripped off by that first offer that the 49ers sent him in February of 2020. It was another 6 months or so before Kittle and the 49ers finally reached a deal after a lot of contentious negotiations. So that means that the 49ers don't back up the Brinks truck at the start or even during the middle of an offseason for a player who's still under contract with them for one more season. They didn't do it for George Kittle. They didn't do it for Fred Warner. And they're certainly not going to do it for Deebo Samuel, especially in this situation where there are still other receivers waiting to get their money and the market's red hot right now. If you're the 49ers, you're going to offer something that probably is going to be a little less palatable to the player to begin, which is why you have the friction to begin with. And then you see where negotiations go as the offseason progresses. Deebo Samuel shares an agent with A.J. Brown and DK Metcalf. Those are the two other wide receivers who are in the same boat as him. They just finished up their third years. They're eligible for extensions. And in this red-hot wide receiver market, they're probably going to get them this offseason. But it makes no sense for Deebo Samuel to want to go before DK Metcalf and A.J. Brown, especially given the fact that he is the same agent, because the way that these deals work is that they're going to one-up each other. Nobody wants to get one-upped, especially receivers who are big into vanity plays on some of these deals. And I should amend that to say that every single position in the NFL likes vanity plays on these deals. You want to make more than the guy before you. And of course, if the same agent is doing all three of these deals, he's going to be looking at each deal as a stepping stone. Torrey Dandy, who just negotiated the deal for Denzel Ward with the Browns, that was a record for the cornerback position. Well, now he could turn his attention to the wide receiver position and say that he signs DK Metcalf first and A.J. Brown second. Well, A.J. is going to make more money. In all likelihood, it's going to be a better deal than DK Metcalf. And if Deebo Samuel comes third, in all likelihood, that's going to be an even more lucrative deal. So Deebo Samuel has some incentive here to sit back and wait and not take the 49ers' first Valentine's Day Massacre type of offer. We know the 49ers' history in these negotiations. They're going to come out with a low ball in their first offer. And that's just business, right? You come out with a low ball. The receiver wants a lot of money. We've already seen Deebo Samuel broadcast through his friend that he wants at least $25 million per year. I'm sure the 49ers aren't near that right now. And then the negotiation has to find a way to assemble and find that middle ground. You have to come from one extreme for the 49ers, which is on the low end, one extreme from Deebo Samuel, which is on the high end, and you have to somehow meet in the middle. Typically, it's deadline pressure that allows you to meet in the middle, but until you do find that sweet spot of negotiations, one side, at least one side, is going to be really unhappy because the negotiations obviously aren't going too well. But John Lynch knew of this whole Deebo Samuel, A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf dynamic way back at the NFL Combine. I'm going to open up my article from Indianapolis, and we'll find what John Lynch said. Yep, I'll highlight it right here. Samuel's agent, Tory Dandy, represents star wideouts A.J. Brown and DK Metcalf, both of whom are also eligible for new contracts this offseason. Tory's going to be a busy man, John Lynch said with a laugh. A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf, Deebo, it would be nice to beat him to the punch because someone is going to set the market really high. But Lynch acknowledged that it won't be easy to quickly strike a deal with Samuel. Counting the playoffs, Samuel became the first player in NFL history to amass 1,500 receiving yards and 500 rushing yards in a single season. It's not going to be easy coming off that season, Lynch said. There's such a buzz around that guy right now, but he has earned everything he's going to get. Now, I was in the room. I was talking to John Lynch. I was there in person, and I can tell you that I wrote that accurately to reflect the mood of the moment and what John Lynch was implying, because sometimes you have to read a little bit in between the lines. And the reason that I said that Lynch acknowledged that it wouldn't be easy to beat A.J. Brown or DK Metcalf to the punch with a deal for Deebo Samuel is because Lynch actually felt that way. He broadcast that. He broadcast doubt that the 49ers would be able to strike a deal before either of those two guys. And that's nothing on the 49ers part. That's more on Deebo Samuel's side, right? The 49ers obviously will offer something to Deebo Samuel if they haven't already. But if it's not high enough for Deebo Samuel to be satisfied, he's not going to accept it. He's going to wait. And that was John Lynch implying that Deebo Samuel had a pretty stiff contract offer or some pretty stiff contract demand early on in this process, that the numbers for Deebo Samuel coming off such a special season, becoming the first player to amass that many receiving and rushing yards in the single season, the fact that he was coming off that season and the fact that his demands were so high, and we've later found out that they're $25 million per year, was going to make it extremely unlikely that the 49ers would back up the Brinks truck to that level this early in the offseason. So now you wait. It's a standoff, right? You see who goes first. If Deebo Samuel's not willing to blink and bring his price down to, meet the 49ers a little bit earlier, well, then DK or A.J. Brown are going to go sooner. And then that ante's going to be upped and it's going to move forward. So the 49ers have a price in mind, in all likelihood, just reading this from the outside. They've offered that price. They think that price is going to be competitive within the context of all three of these contracts once they're signed. And then they want Deebo Samuel to meet them at that price. Now, that price for the 49ers is probably going to have to go up here over a little bit of time because Deebo Samuel has his own price in mind. And that price right now is higher than the 49ers. Ultimately, stuff like this tends to work itself out because this is the cardinal rule of all these negotiations. They all go poorly until they don't. You wouldn't be negotiating if things were going really well, right? The negotiations are a sign that both sides are on a different page and they have to negotiate to get to the same page. And in this case, you have an overheated wide receiver market. You have obviously a standoff between three wideouts who are represented by the same agent. And you have a player in Deebo Samuel who's made a big contract demand, at least through social media, and his friend who posted at least $25 million per year. I've discussed this in many, many videos. I had to make another one because I saw that Schefter report right now on ESPN where he said for some reason Deebo Samuel is not willing to take what the 49ers want to pay right now. And to that, I have to say it's obvious. The 49ers lowballed to begin, and Deebo Samuel's not going to take a lowball offer, not in this wide receiver market. But it's all part of the dance. It's no reason to freak out. You move through the offseason, Deebo Samuel not present at the 49ers on-field workouts here. Probably won't be until he signs a new contract. But it's the deadline pressure that causes negotiations to crystallize, to go from going poorly to going well. And when the negotiation goes well, both sides are ready to put pen to paper. All right, hope that cleared some stuff up. I've got to get going. Everybody subscribe to the channel. We'll talk to you all soon.